Hello. So today is not a good day. I'm sure, like many of you here, I am fed up with the gun violence that has plagued this beautiful city. In a 9-hour stretch of time yesterday, our officers and our detectives have responded to 5 shootings, which led to 4 people being murdered and 1 seriously wounded. To many, these individuals may be statistics, but to this division, these are families who now have to pick up the pieces of losing their loved ones. Our officers and detectives are working tirelessly around the clock to solve these cases and the countless others that have occurred. Just in 2021, my officers, your officers, and detectives have charged approximately 500 people with firearm violations. In the past 2 weeks, 44 people have been charged. I want you to think about that for a minute. 44 people in just September alone have been charged with gun violations. Like the chief has said from day one since we arrived in Columbus, our officers are doing exactly what we have asked them to do, what you have demanded that they do. We now need you to do your part. It is not enough that we are fed up. You must become fed up. How many more funerals? How many more mothers crying? How many more children left without parents is it going to take for this community to come together and let the criminal element in the city of Columbus know we are tired and we are not going to tolerate it? The amount of violence we are seeing is putting a drain on our resources. Our personnel are extremely tired. Our detectives, our crime analysts, our crime scene search unit personnel, and our evidence techs are working around the clock, many working 16-hour days, leaving their own families behind to solve these crimes. We need your help, and we need it right now. I want to make it clear that Columbus is a safe place to work, live, and play. The majority of our gun violence is not random. Just 48 hours ago, we held a press conference talking about needing the public's help in solving the homicide of Olivia Kurtz and any other homicide or felony assault we had in this city. The message today is no different. At this time, I would like to ask Commander Robert Strasbaugh to come to the podium and provide you with more statistics about yesterday's incidents. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. We still have investigators from yesterday out right now working. Thanks, Chief. We still have investigators out right now working from yesterday's assaults and felonious assaults. There were 3 of them that were in close proximity of time, but it's still early in the investigation to say for sure whether or not that they were related. Early indicators are that they are not. So we want to make sure that the citizens understand that the majority of these homicides, the majority of these felonious assaults are indicative of a disturbance between people who know each other. We have no random shootings or homicides in the last 24 hours, as was indicated to me when I got into work this morning. The investigators are working tirelessly, as the chief said, to make sure that we get all the facts that we need to make sure that we are able to successfully prosecute these cases. Homicide investigators and our felony assault unit investigators work very closely with each other to make sure that these things happen. There are video of some of these incidents, and as soon as we are able to get some of it out, we will. But one that I probably won't release, but that I will share with you, is that in one of the assaults, and by the grace of God, he's still alive, he actually crawled to a carryout on the video to get help. This has got to stop. It has to stop. Columbus is way better than this. The violence just needs to stop.
Good afternoon. As we're talking about this violence, which I seem to be doing a lot more frequently than I would like to lately, I just want to take a moment to express my thanks to all the employees that are involved in these investigations. Each homicide or shooting call starts with our communications technicians. They accurately record the information, dispatch the proper resources, get us out there. Our patrol officers are the first responders, and they have been doing a tremendous job. The videos you often don't see are them arriving and performing life-saving measures that save us from having an even bigger total number of homicides. They protect the evidence, they identify witnesses, and often they make apprehensions right there at the scene, and I'm very proud of their work. We have a lot of support personnel that go into these investigations. Our crime scene and our evidence techs, as already mentioned, our laboratory personnel, our digital forensics personnel, local, state, and federal partners who lend their expertise, equipment, and support. We could not succeed without every one of these people succeeding. The homicide and felonious assault detectives specifically that I have the honor of supervising, I am very proud of their work. They have changed nearly the way they do everything in the last few years, including right now we're in the second iteration of a pilot program where they've voluntarily changed their shifts and their days off to form teams where everybody's working first shift. We have 6 teams. Twice in the last week, we've had to use 4 of those teams in the same day. If it wasn't for the teams, we would have more homicides on a shift at times in the last week than we have personnel to even respond. So I'm very grateful for their sacrifices to try this out, try something new to help us succeed, because they are the voices of the victims and they are the voices of the families in many cases. As mentioned, they're often working 12 and 16-hour days. They really don't have time off from work. Their phones are ringing constantly, and they're not leaving. They're volunteering to stay there, raise their hand and say, I want to do this. I want to make Columbus better. And I thank them for that. All these employees deal with considerable trauma, and often this trauma lasts longer than the investigation. Again, I'm very proud of their work, and I pray for their long-term health because the trauma impacts us as well. But the trauma is really impacting our community, and enough is enough. We're all fed up. We need this to stop. We can proactively police. My detectives can reactively respond, solve cases, and bring offenders to the courts. We can implement programs such as the group violence intervention, many of you may refer to as ceasefire. We can employ interrupters that go out and try to break the cycle of violence, but only the trigger pullers can decide not to pull the trigger and wound and kill others. Until they make that decision, we must collectively come together as a community and hold them accountable. They cannot operate without accountability. To that end, I am very grateful for every witness who's courageous enough to come forward and share their information. If you have a tip on a homicide, please call us, 614-645-4730. Or you can report it anonymously to Crime Stoppers at 614-645-4749. The police cannot do this alone. We need your help. And your silence may not allow another mother to lose her baby. So please don't let that happen. And with that, if anybody has any questions for the 3 of us.
Commander, I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the pilot program. If it weren't for the pilot program, it would have been second shift handling 4 different homicides altogether. You know, as we reported the last couple of weeks, there were 2 homicides close together a couple of weeks ago, and there was, guard duty pulled from different zones just to protect the crime scene. And then we have all the crime scene techs. How many resources does it take to investigate one homicide? How much resources does it pull from the streets from other neighborhoods to investigate all of these homicides we've had just in a short period of time?
Succinctly, a lot. Homicide, we try our best not to send any less than 4 homicide investigators to a scene with a supervisor. There's a primary, then there's a secondary, and then the other 2 detectives either will go to a hospital or do a canvass of the area or do whatever it is that the primary needs. That's the minimum. On larger scenes, we have to send more than that. Each sergeant on the scene can make that determination. There are some scenes that I go out on the chiefs go out on, and we are able to coordinate the resources better in that way. So what I think citizens don't understand is what you just said. The resources are pulled from their neighborhoods. That's why we need the citizens' help. We need to have the citizens step up and give us the direction in which to take our investigation. Because when we have a guard duty, regardless of where it is in the city, we have to rob Peter to pay Paul. And that's what we're doing on some of these scenes. So the resources that we use are not just our investigators and our patrol officers, they are also our lab techs, they are our CSSU, our evidence techs. We tried to bring everything together for these investigations because that's how serious we take violent crime for the Division of Police. But succinctly, a lot of resources go into a homicide investigation, and those resources come from every neighborhood and community inside of Columbus.
4 homicides and 1 felonious assault that we're talking about within the last 24 hours. Have arrests been made in any of those cases?
There's one that I know that we have someone in custody. The other one's not yet. As I said earlier, we have detectives who are still out from yesterday. One of them had to drive to Ashland to make a next of kin notification. So as soon as we find out the charges are being filed and we file charges or we make an arrest, we immediately send out an update on our media releases because we want you guys to know that. When we're looking for someone or a vehicle, we do our best to try to get that information out to you guys as well because you guys are partners in this as well. You guys are able to get the information out, you guys being the media. The media is able to get the information out that we need. This is a community issue. This is a community concern. So therefore, we need all in the community to be partners with us to bring these murderers in front of a judge and hopefully, and more importantly, get them convicted and incarcerated into prison. That's why homicide investigations may take a little longer. I will never be able to solve a homicide fast enough for a mother, father, grandmother, grandfather. Never.
Commander, I'm wondering, as someone who is born and raised in the city, when you hear that we're now at 153 homicides for the year, we didn't hit 153 homicides until December 3rd last year, the year that we set the record.
How I feel about it pisses me off. I grew up in the city. I was born and raised here with the exception of time in the military. It angers me. And the reason it angers me is because there's this warped sense of this code on the street of snitches and stitches. Well, that only applies if you are with someone who you commit a crime with and you tell on that person. If you witness somebody killing somebody in your neighborhood, it's not a snitch to make your neighborhood safer. It's not a snitch to put somebody in prison who may subsequently harm a loved one of yours. We need to get over that, and we need parents to make sure that they know where their kids are, they know what their kids have, and they know what their kids are doing. So it makes me angry. I have kids that are in Columbus. I have relatives that are in Columbus, and I get constantly contacted, texts, phone calls, where can I go and shop? What time is the best time for me to go out? That's ludicrous in this city. Ludicrous. We should be able to go out and shop and do what we want to do every single day without fear of being hurt.
Commander, the 3 of those shootings, 2 of the homicides, happened within about a 2-mile stretch on the Near East Side. And the Near East Side has seen a lot of violence so far this year. Can you tell us anything about, you said there's no indication at this point they're connected, what may have led to that, and what people in that area should be doing to try and make sure that they're safe?
As I said earlier, the majority, first off, I want to say you guys are probably going to make these guys jealous. I'm getting all the questions. But as I said earlier, the majority of these felonious assaults and these homicides are a result of a disturbance, an argument, whether it be a road rage incident. That's what I was trying to think of, a road rage incident, an argument, somebody looking at somebody's significant other in a way that they don't think they should be looked at. Those are the disturbances. What led to the shooting last night, I can't really tell you because we haven't got that far along in the investigation, the gentleman who is still alive. But seeing this human being crawling on the sidewalk as the chief and I watched the video, I mean, it hits you. It hits you hard. You know, he wasn't even able to open the door up to the carryout where he was. He was just knocking on the door to try to get in. The other one out at Nelson Road and Main Street, as an indication that that is too a result of a disturbance. And when I say disturbance, I mean an argument or a disagreement, something of that nature. As I've said constantly in the past, you know, people don't resolve their problems anymore with talking. They don't resolve their problems anymore with just, you know, duking it out, and then 2 days later they're playing football with each other at the rec center. These kids today, and kids to me is anyone under 30 now, these kids today, they resolve their problems by pulling out a firearm, and that's not how you solve problems.
Any concern from the department that potentially 2 of these suspects from last night may have been homeless?
Oh, sorry. We haven't confirmed that yet. We have heard that one of them may have had some type of indicator that they were homeless. So it would be really premature for me to answer that. But I will say that what we're looking at, that there's no random shooting of somebody going around and shooting homeless people or anybody else of a same type of, I can't say, what was the word that you used earlier? Same demographics. Does that help? Okay, thanks. You look quizzical.
How are the officers handling the trauma and even the exhaustion, just working such long hours to kind of look into these shootings and crimes?
We all can say they're exhausted. They're exhausted. I can tell you, the chief and I have only been here 2 months, and we're exhausted. There are many nights the chief and I don't go to sleep because we're going over the cases that are coming on our phones, where we're texting and talking to commander and deputy chief about how we can curb this gun violence. So I can speak for the division. We're exhausted. We're tired, we're angry. We have a disdain for people who solve their problems by pulling out weapons and killing others and shooting others. And so we're here to talk about homicides, but you got non-fatal shootings. You have shooters who are solving arguments by shooting each other. And for us, that is a potential homicide, because that victim who was shot, more often than not, knows who shot them. And often than not, they go for revenge. And so our message is simply clear today. We are not going to continue to tolerate this gun violence in the city of Columbus. I am fed up, my team is fed up, and we want the citizens, and we know the citizens, the majority, overwhelming majority, are out here doing the right thing. But we also know that they know who the shooters are. We also know that they know that some of their children are the gun pullers. We need them to get fed up. It is not enough for us to keep having another press conference. We've had several, and so we're now begging you to stand up, stand with us, and let the citizens in this Columbus beautiful city know that gun violence, gun triggers are not going to be tolerated here. We are serious about coming after you, and believe me, it may take us a month, it may take us a year, but we are going to work diligently to make sure that you get the justice that you deserve when you come out here and you shoot innocent people and you shoot at our babies, because we haven't even addressed the fact that we've lost juveniles. I'm so tired of talking about the gun violence in this city. I've only been here 2 months. This is a beautiful city. This is not the image that we want Columbus residents to be heard of. I came here and all I see is beauty. I see trees. I see beautiful parks. I see beautiful people. I don't want this to be our message anymore. It is not going to be the headlines that Columbus has 5 more shootings. Enough is enough. And that's why we wanted to get this message out. My officers are tired. The chief is tired. My team is tired. And we're angry. And so we want that anger to turn into solutions. We're asking and we're begging. If you know something, say something. That's it.
Chief, I was going to ask, 70 of the 153 victims so far this year are ages 18 to 30. I just want you to maybe elaborate on those numbers just a little bit more, especially as I know you and Chief Bryant have talked to a lot of those families of the young children who have been victims.
So I'll tell you, and this is a forgotten demographic that we don't talk about, our trauma surgeons. Grant Hospital is one of the best hospitals in the country, but I can tell you those surgeons are tired. They're tired of having families come in there and have to tell their mothers, daughters, fathers, sons that their loved one is no longer with us. I know that my homicide detectives are tired of making next of kin notifications. I know that the chief and I, the mayor's office, we're tired of standing here talking about what can we do to curb the gun violence. We have initiatives, but they're not going to come overnight. We have been here for 2 months, and I can tell you overwhelmingly the majority of the men and women of this division are dedicated. They want to be here, not because they have to be here, because they chose to be here. And so we're asking, don't just tell us we need to do better. We're telling you, you need to do better. And so when you talk about that 18 to 30 range, these are our offenders and our victims. These are people who grew up in the same neighborhoods. They know each other, they know each other's families. And to think that in their minds, it's okay that you had a disagreement on Tuesday and you think it's okay to shoot somebody on Wednesday or Thursday. It just doesn't make sense. And I know that we're better than that. And fortunately for us, we're working with limited manpower. We're trying to do the best that we can. But I can assure you that the chief and this team, we're committed to putting more officers on the street by recruitment. We're committed to making sure that we engage our community. We're committed to having open and honest dialogue. You've heard the chief say this over and we're gonna hold our officers accountable. And when they do something right, we're gonna back them. When they do something wrong, we're gonna hold them accountable. But we're also gonna hold this community accountable. We can no longer ignore what we see in the backdrop. So if it's in your neighborhood, we want you to be fed up. We want you to come out with us when we're out here talking about how we reduce gun violence. We want to hear from you what you think this division can do better, and then how can you help. This is basically us begging for your assistance. So I think that's all we're trying to get across. We're tired, we're fed up, and we're seriously want to decrease this crime. We cannot, and I will not accept 200 murders. I will not. And so we're diligently working towards decreasing that every single day.
Thank you all.
Thank you.